Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. This is one of the videos that I do every year during Ketchupathon, where I am going to take a handful, in this case 5, Book of the Month books and try a chapter of them to see if they are books that I really want to read or if I can just unhaul them. For the books that I've chosen this time, there are 2 that I don't think I'm really going to like. I really just chose them so that I could get an add-on. 2 are authors that I really want to see if I like their writing. And then 1, I've read this author before, but only 1 book by them. And so I'm curious about this one. So let's just go through the books that I've chosen. And I am then going to try a chapter of each of them to see if I want to continue reading them or if they can go ahead and get unhauled off of my Book of the Month shelf. So first up, I have A.O. Ivy's Blackwoods Blue Sky. I have read a book by her before, The Snow Child, and I loved it. But that's the only book that I've read by her. And this one I've heard, I think it was Gloria from Gloria Z. Thompson, didn't care for this one, so I've been wary of it. But I'm still curious, so I want to give it a try. Next up, we have a historical fiction, Peach Blossom Spring by Melissa Fu. I typically do like books that are set in Asia, especially historical fiction, and this is 1938 in China. So I'll tell you more about it when we get to each book itself, but I'm curious about this one. The next 2 that I have are the ones I think I'm probably not going to really like. Never Over by Claire Gilmore, a rom-com. I just have a feeling this one's going to be too steamy for me, but I'm going to give the first chapter a try. And also Audrey Ingram's The Summer We Ran, which I think is going to be too political for me. We'll look more into it and see. And then the 5th one that I have is Alka Joshi's 6 Days in Bombay. I've had The Henna Artist on my shelves for quite a while by the same author and have never really reached for it. I've heard good things about it. I just want to give her writing a style a taste and see if this is an author that I'm going to like or not. So these are the 5 books. As always, I will read the first chapter. I will rank them and we will see if I will keep them on my shelves or unhaul them. So I'm going to go with the first one, Blackwoods Blue Sky. My prediction is that I'm going to love it. I hope I really do, because I really did like her writing in The Snow Child. So this one is Alaska again, mythical Alaska, which is very similar to The Snow Child. An unforgettable dark fairy tale that asks the question, can love save us from ourselves? So we're going to follow this woman named Birdie and her daughter Emmeline. They live in Alaska. She works at a diner. And then Arthur is a soft-spoken and scarred recluse who appears in town at the change of seasons only. But Emmeline, I guess, gets lost in the woods and Arthur rescues her. And Birdie finds herself falling in love with Arthur and goes against the warnings of those who care about them. Birdie and Emmeline move to Arthur's isolated cabin in the mountains. And it's just the 3 of them out there. And Birdie realizes that Arthur is not quite what he seems. He's something much more mysterious and dangerous than she could ever have imagined. Ooh, creepy. Okay, so the first chapter has 14 pages. So I'm going to go ahead and read the first chapter and come back and share my thoughts with you. So I finished the first chapter of Blackwoods Blue Sky. I did forget that I want to read the first lines of these chapters, hopefully before I read the next ones. The first line of this one says, Birdie knew her mistake as soon as she cracked open her eyes. It's a pretty good first line, I would think. Draws me right in. So we meet Birdie in this chapter. Actually, we meet Arthur as well, but Birdie, we see her waking up from a rough night at work where she drank a lot and did cocaine and got sick, and she now has a hangover. Her daughter is still sleeping and sleeps like a log, so she heads out to go to the creek to fish a little bit in Alaska. Talks about bears, the possibility of seeing bears anyways. She does catch a huge fish. She cleans it out, which is kind of gross. And then on her way back, Arthur comes out of the woods and they have a small interaction. He doesn't speak much, just tells her he's going to check if the trout are back in the creek. I feel like I'm not drawn into the story at all. I don't care that much for Birdie's personality, I guess, but I don't know her well enough to know. But what I do really like about A.O. Ivy's writing is the descriptions are so vivid. She really has some beautiful descriptions that really set the scene. And I think I'm willing to continue this one. I didn't read it and say, oh no, I don't even want to read that. So I'm curious a little bit, but I'm not eager to want to continue like right now. It didn't fully draw me in, but I'm curious. So that's the first one. And now on to the next, which at the top of my stack is Peach Blossom Spring by Melissa Fu. So again, this one takes place in 1938 in China. This is going to be a moving debut novel about war, migration, and the power of telling our stories, following 3 generations of a Chinese family on their search for a place to call home. Okay, I don't always love a family saga, but I have liked some. There's a quote in here: within every misfortune there is a blessing, and within every blessing the seeds of misfortune, and so it goes until the end of time. Pretty cool. I do see that there is a map here. So the first chapter and this page called Origins is going to be 25 pages. So that's a bit more than the last one, but I feel like it's doable. And we're at part 1, starts out 1938 to 1941, so 3 years. And chapter 1 takes place in Changsha, Hunan province, China, March 1938. So Dao Hongzi, I probably said those names totally wrong, had 3 wives. Their names are not important. Okay, so that's where we're starting. Don't really know much. I will hop back on in a few minutes to tell you about my thoughts on the first chapter. I have finished the first chapter of Peach Blossom Spring by Melissa Fu, and I really enjoyed this. It's setting the scene to follow Mei Lin, our main character at the beginning of the story, and her 4-year-old son. So we've met the family. We kind of get a little bit of the family dynamics. There was a lot of names right at the beginning. And I do think that if I continue this, I'm going to listen to it on audio because I don't know how to pronounce any of these Chinese names. And I feel like it would add so much to the experience to hear their names and the places pronounced correctly, because I don't even know how to read them. But Mei Lin, I'm assuming it's Mei Lin, she is married to the youngest son in this family, and they're the only ones. He's the only son that has a son. So there's something special about that. So we're going to follow Mei Lin and then her son, Ren Shu, and then eventually he's going to go to America and have a daughter named Lily, and Lily's going to want to know about her history. That's all from the summary on the dust jacket. But so far, we have Mei Lin living with this family. Her husband has gone off to war to fight the Japanese and doesn't come home. The older brother, who's kind of very different from her husband, does make it home, but we don't really know what happened to her husband. But then their family has to flee because the Japanese are coming. That's kind of where we end the first chapter, is them fleeing. We also know that the family has this scroll that not the whole family. Mei Lin and Ren Shu have this scroll, and they've talked about the scroll quite a few times, and it's very valuable, but also brings hope because it shares legends and stories and, what did it say? Ancient fables that offer solace and wisdom. So the scroll is going to be an important part of the story, I believe, as well. So I'm very interested in continuing. Probably a little more interested in Peach Blossom Spring than Blackwoods Blue Sky, but I will listen to this on audio if I continue it. So far, there's my ranking, 1, 2. And now we're going to go to one of the ones that I'm not as sure about, and I actually may need to look up some reviews of this one as well to just kind of see how spicy it is. So we follow Paige, who is making a living doing what she loves, writing lyrics for songs. But then somebody suggests that she might be holding back with her lyrics. She reaches out to her ex-boyfriend, Liam, to ask him to date her again and then break her heart again, so that she has all of these emotions fresh on her mind so that she can write better songs. They're going to have rippling chemistry. Yikes. They both have to decide which is more important, art for the sake of it or love over everything. Let's see, I am going to read the first chapter, which is 14 pages. And the first sentence says, June, now, this is when it's taking place. I grew up the youngest of 5 girls, and my childhood best friend was Maisie Morgan. Not very exciting first line. I will read the first chapter and let you know. All right, I read the first chapter of Never Over, and it is over. Sorry to contradict the title. I just don't care. Our main character, Paige, is super insecure. She's the youngest of 5 sisters, and her best friend was like a pageant queen when they were growing up. So she considers herself invisible, which I understand how she could feel that way. but she kind of carries that into her adult life. She wants to be a songwriter, has no desire to be a musician or a singer-songwriter, just wants to write the lyrics, just wants to write the songs for others. She has a very quiet voice, works at a restaurant that it's hard to hear. So we saw some people kind of yelling at her, like, what are you saying? But then gets an opportunity from one of the record labels that she reached out to about writing songs. And she hears back from one and goes to pitch her music, her lyrics and her songs. And he says, you have a beautiful voice. You should be on stage doing this. And she's like, I don't really want to. And that's where we end the first chapter. We've hit on a couple memories that pop up of her ex, Liam, from when they were young. She's 25, so she's an adult, but a young adult. And just super insecure. I don't know. I just didn't really connect with her at all. Some of the ways that she described her relationship with Liam, I'm like, oh yeah, we're not gonna read this. I don't care enough. Thankfully, there wasn't language right off the bat, which sometimes is popular in contemporary rom-coms, but yeah, I just don't care. I just don't care. So this one's getting unhauled. It will go to the bottom of my stack. There we go. Book 4 is going to be the other one that I'm pretty sure I'm not interested in. I'm hoping it surprises me. That's always fun. But The Summer We Ran by Audrey Ingram. It's the summer of 1996. Tessa's mom gave her 2 rules to abide by. Keep quiet and stay out of trouble. They live in Virginia. She falls deeply in love with the boy next door, high society Grant Alexander. So they have a few wondrous and heat-filled months. Great. Tess and Grant's love blooms so ferociously it feels utterly impossible that anything can keep them apart until tragedy strikes. Now it's 2 decades after their epic teenage romance. Tess and Grant are both running for the governor of Virginia. I like that it takes place in my state. Secrets from that summer threaten to shatter their families and their political futures and the memory of the first love that shaped their lives. The first chapter is only 10 pages long, and there is a prologue as well. And that's from Tessa's perspective. I might need to read a little bit farther than the first chapter just to get a full idea. But the first sentence of the prologue says, I was never a good liar. Yikes. And that's from 1997, January 1997. But chapter 1 takes place June 2021. And the first line says, there's a familiar thud against my front door, and I know our paper has been delivered. Well, very good. So I will read the first chapter or a little more. We'll see. Okay, I read the first chapter and some of the second chapter of The Summer We Ran by Audrey Ingram. And I feel like I need more information. So in this one, we meet Tess. In the first chapter, it's the present day timeline, 2021. She's going to be running for governor of Virginia. We meet her husband, who's known her for 20 years. I don't know if they've been together 20 years. It's clear that she has secrets or holes in her past that she's never told him about. One of them being Grant, who is now running against her for the governor. And then in the second chapter, we go back to 1996, see her and her mom arriving at what I'm assuming is going to be Grant's house to work for the summer. The mom's got a job there. Tess is a surly 17-year-old girl who doesn't get along very well with her mom. I'm curious enough to look into it a little bit. So I'm going to take a look at Goodreads, see what other people have said about this one. What is the rating? I feel like I could take it or leave it. It didn't really draw me in that much, but maybe it's going to be good. I don't know. So I'm going to put this one at number 3. Right there. So we'll put it here. Not quite the lowest, but I'm not sure. It's probably going to end up getting unhauled. For our last book, I'm very curious to read the first chapter of 6 Days in Bombay by Alka Joshi. This is going to take place in all over. This sweeping novel of identity and self-discovery takes readers from 1937 Bombay to Prague, Florence, Paris, and London to uncover the mystery behind a famous painter's death. I do like books that deal with art in some way. So yeah, we're going to follow a renowned painter, Mira Novak. She arrives at Wadia Hospital in Bombay after a miscarriage. She's expected to make a quick recovery, and her nurse is excited to learn more about the vivacious artist who shares her half-Indian identity. Sona, yearning for a larger life, finds herself carried away by Mira's stories of her travels and exploits and is shocked by accounts of the many lovers the painter has left scattered throughout Europe. Yikes. Mira dies quite suddenly and mysteriously. Sona falls under suspicion and her quiet life is upended. The dedication is really good. To women everywhere who refuse to be silenced, you are my tribe. So we're going to be in Bombay, May 1937. And chapter 1 is going to have 36 pages. Why are we having such long chapters, people? The first line said, Mira winced as a spasm of pain shot through her. Why is she in pain? I want to know. I have finished the first chapter of 6 Days in Bombay. It is now the next day. I had to stop reading last night with my eyeballs and switch to my audiobook because I was just getting too tired and I didn't want my thoughts on the first chapter to be impacted by my mood or how tired I was. So, and the first chapter of this one was really long. Like I said, like 36 pages. But I did really like this. I feel like I'm going to get a lot of culture, a lot of Indian culture and other places that she travels. We didn't get quite into the story yet. So we really just met Sona, who is a nurse working in the hospital, and we kind of follow her through her shift. She works the night shift and she talks with a lot of different patients. She works with a woman named Indira whose husband beats her. And so she was helping her. There's another nurse that doesn't get along well with her who's also mixed. So Sona's dad was British and her mom is Indian. And she's looked down upon and made fun of, bullied as she was growing up. So it's just her and her mom. The dad took off after she had a brother who died before 3 years old. So after the son was born, the dad kind of left. So it's been Sona and her mom. They have a really beautiful relationship. I liked learning about their relationship. And then Sona's mom, when she gets home from work, tells her that this guy's dad came to approach her about Sona's hand in marriage, and he's a mechanic and he's a good guy, but Sona's like, nah, I just want more than that for my life. So she has big dreams for her life. We kind of get to see that side of her. I'm interested. I like the writing style and definitely would want to continue this story. So where it sits, I think, am I the most interested in this one? I think I am. I'm going to put this at the top of the pile. So here is my stack: 6 Days in Bombay, then Peach Blossom Spring, both of which I feel like I'm going to learn a lot about another culture, India and China. And then Blackwoods Blue Sky, I'm intrigued by. I would like to know more. And then I think I'm just going to unhaul these. And honestly, I probably could have said that right from the beginning. And I think our expectations and our thoughts about things going into them will definitely impact what we feel. But I don't think I need to read these 2 stories at the bottom. So I'm just going to unhaul them. And these 3 will stay on my shelves. I don't think I'm not going to read them soon. I have too many other things on my pile, but I am interested in them. I do really like learning about other cultures, and I like books set in Alaska, and I'm curious enough to go a little farther before deciding if I'm going to continue reading it or not. All in all, I would say that was quite a successful try a chapter, because 2 are leaving. Bye. And these 3 are staying. I love getting to taste a taste test, if you will, of authors' writings styles, and I hope that you enjoyed getting a taste of them as well. Let me know if you would have felt the same about the books based on what I've shared with you about their first chapters, or if you've read either of these 2 and really think I should keep them. Let me know that as well. And I would love to hear if you've read any of these 3, what you thought of them. Maybe you loved them. I want to know. Or if you didn't, I want to know that too. That is going to be all for me today. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you for being here with me today. And if you've made it to the end but you're not feeling chatty, just go ahead and leave a little stack of books emoji just to let me know that you were here watching me try out this stack of books today. I would love to know who's here watching. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes of your day with me, and I really look forward to chatting with you in another video very soon. Bye.